Oh, how you doing, folks? It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It's the 11th of December. Can you believe it? Wow. Unreal. December 11, 2024. We have 20 days left this year. And then it'll be 2025. That's crazy. And we've got holidays coming up in this year, right? Still at the end of December, right? The last week of this December is all about the holidays. I forget what date you got. What's it? Kwanzaa. You got Kwanzaa. So happy Kwanzaa to all the Kwanzaa celebrants. But there's also obviously Christmas and Hanukkah. Right? A lot of big holidays that last pretty much the last week. Oh, watch out! Hey, yep. Shalom. Young people interacting with animals. I love it. Yes, you got Kwanzaa, Christmas, Hanukkah, Festivus, right? The festival for the rest of us. Right? Hilarious. Right, the airing of grievances, one of my favorite. It is a funny show. It is a funny episode from the Seinfeld days about Festivus. Anyway, what am I talking about today? Well, you may have noticed yesterday there was a lot of hoo-ha that was made. A big brouhaha was made in the crypto sphere about the Google Willow chip, right? And we discussed it in the Discord at Alpha Trading and in the live stream at Alpha Trading. And I may have mentioned it in a video or two here that was live during the day yesterday, in case you didn't catch it. Sometimes these, I've noticed sometimes these videos disappear into the ether. It's not by my doing, it's that I don't know what happens somewhere along the line. The processing system, whatever it is using or doing, eats the video and doesn't post it. And sometimes they reappear out of nowhere. Sometimes they just simply disappear. So anyway, I did mention it yesterday in those different places, and I'll mention it again here. Hopefully this video will stick. What is the pillow thing, or the Willow? It's Willow, not pillow. Willow is the name of Google's new quantum computer chip. What is a quantum computer chip, Yasha? Well, a quantum computer chip is a central processing unit, CPU type of computer chip that uses quantum physics in order to be able to process more information faster. Well, how can they do that, Yasha? Okay, well, if you've ever heard anything about computer chips, you may have heard something about this idea called Moore's Law, right? Moore's Law was this concept made by Mr. Moore that he figured out back in like the 60s already, that computer chips were going to double in speed every 2 years. And in fact, if you look at the development of computer chips, that mathematical equation turned out to be correct for like 40-something years. And then in the in the first 10 years of the years 2000, like between 2000 and 2010, it started to look a little bit like, already by the 90s, by the way, by the late 90s, people were already saying, hey, we're going to need to start developing quantum chips because we're running out of room to make more microprocessors inside of the same amount of, square space, square inch, square centimeter, square millimeter, or whatever. Right? We can only fit so many little processors in there, so many little circuits and all that stuff, right? So how do we get more processors than Moore's Law, if you will? Well, microprocessors were already in discussion for a long time, And since the 90s, they were already gaining traction as a concept. And if you want to think about it like this, regular CPUs have a flat surface area on which to have their processors, their microprocessors. So if you have a square inch, you could put however, hundreds of millions or billions or trillions of microprocessors you can stick in that square flat space, and that's it. Quantum processors, essentially, think of it as stacked pancakes of processing power. So instead of having just the ground floor of a building, you've got many floors. And that is one way to think of how to build up quantum computer chips, okay? That's kind of the simple way to think about it. It's very relatable, I think, for most people. And then once you get past that, there's all this information about qubits, which already once most people hear that, they tend to tune out because it's already too technical. Okay, but all that is just, well, again, I literally don't want to get too technical about it, but you can Google it if it really interests you. But what I will tell you is that the Google Willow quantum chip, which they've just announced and released, has 105 qubits, okay? And it would need, in order to, the reason it was the talk of the town yesterday in a lot of the crypto sphere is because people fear that if you have a quantum computer chip that can calculate many times faster than a regular computer chip, then in theory you could crack, Bitcoin seed phrases, right, and steal people's money, right? Because all you need to do is figure out the 12 or 24 words and you're good to go, right? Well, not quite that obvious. Okay, why? Well, because first of all, in order to crack that computer code, that algorithm, there's a bunch of things that have to happen in order for you to steal that money, actually. First of all, you need something like 13 million or 130 million qubits, whatever the number is. It's many millions of qubits of computer power from your quantum chips. And right now, the qubit maximum power that the chip has, that was just announced by Google, has 105 qubits, okay? Why do I say that? Because it means they're at least if you're doing, forget Moore's law, if you're saying that quantum computer technology will increase by 5x every 2 years or every year, okay? It's still going to take you 10 to 20 years, maybe longer, right? Maybe 30, whatever, maybe less, but it's not going to take you less than at least 5 to 10 years, at least, okay? So there's no way that those chips are going to be used during this, what people call a market cycle, which is just buy pressure. Ignore the silly terms, but during this big long cycle, this big long period of 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, where we are, currently seeing the general motion to the upside at the moment. If you want to think about the panic of when these chips might eat away at the security of a blockchain like Bitcoin or Litecoin, right, or even Ethereum, you have to calculate how far ahead in the future it needs to be for that to be a reality. And then you have to understand that that would mean that people who make algorithms, which is just software, don't have the ability to make better algorithms that are quantum resistant. Well, guess what? Not only are they capable of it, those algorithms already exist and already run on various different platforms. But there are quantum resistant platforms that do exist. Not only that, there are quantum resistant algorithms that are literally ready to go. Right? The moment anybody ever cracks SHA-256, the current algorithm, for example, used on Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? and other direct forks of Bitcoin. So if SHA-256 is ever broken, and it's not if, it's when, because it's crypto, which means it's designed to actually be broken at some point. When it is broken, it will be instantly replaced, or extremely quickly replaced, right, by a new algorithm that already exists and is already laying in wait. And there are a number of them. And they are kept, locked away, not available for people to know. And once they're released, they're released. So the probability of cracking that network and getting away with transactions, when the network is capable of rolling back transactions, right? Yeah, it could be a bit of a PETA if they have to roll back things, but it's not impossible, right? Yeah, they might even have to fork it, Again, entirely doable, okay? Especially if somebody takes some copious, egregious amount, steals 1 million of them or whatever, then sure, might be the case that the network will just hard fork, roll back those, and launch the new fork based on, the ledger without that egregious transaction, right? Or they might just nullify that transaction while allowing all the other ones, as long as that transaction didn't have descendant transactions already, in which case you would nullify any of those. So that's really the reason that Willow is not a threat to crypto, right? In its current incarnation, it's nowhere near a threat. It has 105 qubits. It needs like 130 million qubits, right? Even if it's 13 million, whatever the number is, it needs like whatever it has. You need to multiply by like 1 million, right? Or 100,000 or 1 million or whatever, 10 million. It's some insane number, and it doesn't have that capacity. Now, will it get there? Of course it'll get there, and exponentially it'll get there, right? The growth, the rapid increase in the technological puissance of these chips is not simply linear. It is going to be, a geometrical exponential growth. And if you ask why, well, look at how the tech keeps evolving. It's not straight linear, right? It follows Moore's law very much. Every couple of years, the technology increases, doubles in terms of the capacity to stick more circuits into space. And now we've gotten to that point where we're switching from 2xing it to actually probably we're going to increase that number. It'll probably be closer to 3, 4, maybe even 5x every couple of years, right? So it might be a 2x every year, 2.5x every year. And that ultimately is why Willow is not a threat to Bitcoin, certainly not in this bull cycle or, big cycle or whatever. Not even in the next one, like 4 years from now. Maybe 8 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe. If like I said, if there was no available algo that would be quantum resistant. But there are. So it won't be a threat even in 2 or 3 cycles from now. Furthermore, what does make it a bit complicated, let's say somebody right now built a quantum chip that did have the capacity to crack the code. Where would the problems lie if we started using quantum resistant algorithms right now? Well, the problem lies in that the devices we use to use the network may not have the capacity in their existing microchips to make use of the network properly. And those could be vulnerability vectors. which means that within the next 8 to 10 years, the average consumer chip needs to be improved, right, in ways that allow for it to be, to reach levels of security which would then not be threatened by any quantum computing, because at the moment it's they are potentially vectors of vulnerability if nothing is done to secure them better. But of course, we still have another 8 to 10 years before it becomes even a minor issue of a potential threat. So it's really nothing to worry about, because it's not like this is new information to computer chip engineers, right, and engineering companies. They are fully aware that this issue exists, right? They know this issue exists. They are working on this issue that exists. None of this is news to them, right? The fact that it made it into the trade newspapers means it was already not news. I always tell people that, like, it's already not new information. By the time it gets reported in the trades, I mean, obviously, let alone the retail news, but by the time it gets reported in the trades, it's already not new. It's already an issue that's been covered enough to get covered in the trades. Like, it's been dealt with enough. It's been developed enough to get covered in the trades. I'm not talking about a breaking news story about, like, some story about a hot pursuit or something breaking, something, brand new developing. No, I'm talking about, the slow creeping, moving stories of tech, right? So keep that in mind. And happy trading. See you guys.